in, and there was no inventiveness from the players, and I found that extremely worrying and concerning. The players weren't prepared to just slightly change it. It was, let's go down the left. If we can't get a cross in, we'll come back out and we'll go down the other side. And it was just so repetitive, and crosses that did come in were absolutely appalling, shocking standard of crossing. Now, and in the first 40 minutes, Newcastle United, according to the stats, had exactly 2/3 of possession, and 1/3 went to Bournemouth. In those 2/3 possession, in the first 45 minutes, not one shot until Trippier's free kick. And then, okay, there was an exciting 5 minutes, but still the ball didn't go into the net. And I didn't see enough of a positive reaction from Newcastle United players. I found it all very worrying and concerning, and I think so did the manager, by the sound of him in the press conference. It wasn't good at all. It really wasn't.
Bournemouth came with the same kind of game plan as Crystal Palace, and that was to frustrate Newcastle. They came to put 11 men behind the ball and hopefully catches on the counter-attack. And they did that. And Billing, who I thought was man of the match for them, and maybe through the game, number 29, the big lad, and number 4, Lewis Cook, I think he had a great game. But they almost got away with it. Are Newcastle being found out at home?
Well, yeah, Newcastle aren't offering enough to make themselves a problem, and they really do need to buck up ideas, to liven themselves up, and but also I really think Eddie Howe has got an awful lot of work on the training ground. For example, in the second half there was a free kick about 20-25 yards outside the penalty area, and it was just left of centre of the pitch. And I looked at the players gathering on the edge of the penalty area, and there wasn't a single player who went wide of the far post. So there was this immense gap of some 40 yards to the sideline, and so the taker of the free kick, he had to try and judge it absolutely perfectly on a very narrow line, and even so, because it's coming straight down the pitch, nobody is going to get a header on target from there. It's impossible. You just can't get the momentum on it, and also and if you slightly overhit it, it goes straight down the keeper's throat. And I thought, well, that just about sums up Newcastle United's day. Totally sums it up. It was maddening. It really was. Newcastle United, they've got to have a plan B, which they didn't seem to have today. And if plan A isn't working, then you start to change it somewhat, and you bring in other types of ideas. And certainly, I don't think it's working with Isak playing absolutely fully up front, because he prefers to be facing goal and he's having to play with his back to goal. That isn't his game at all, and so hopefully Wilson is going to be back in a fortnight's time, and he will play that forward position quite happily. That's his game. But Isak can play slightly deeper and look to sort of play around Wilson, and I think we'll see an awful lot more of him, and we could find quite a bit of danger up front. Today there was nothing, absolutely nothing, no threat whatsoever. And when you think, incredibly, Newcastle remain in the top half of the table, and they've only won once. It's madness. Fine. Bournemouth on the same number of points are only 2 places behind.
Difficult to ask this question. Man of the match for Newcastle today, I think. Well, you see, Mickey. I was thinking Fabian Schär. Maybe it's Big Dan Burn. I struggle to find anybody else who could come off with a head out.
Yeah, I thought the back line did okay. I really did. In midfield, there was a lot to be desired. Let's put it this way. And to be honest, I think if I were to go for anybody, I would go for Dan Burn. Yeah, I thought he was absolutely excellent. He went man for man to start with on the big fella, and he did a great job. Kept him very quiet, and that was probably the best decision of the day by Eddie Howe to bring Botman out, put Dan Burn in to look after their big fella, and it worked very well. But up front remains a huge problem. If you can have 2/3 of the play for 40 minutes and not get a shot at goal, that's a major problem. A serious and major problem.
The midfield, you keep saying, is the problem. You know, we've got to get through now until the World Cup with this midfield. Is there anything we can do with the players we've got, do you think, to change our fortunes in that area? Is there a formation change potentially? You said we didn't have a plan B today. Is there anything Eddie Howe, can do to change it?
Yeah, if Wilson is fit within a few days, and it certainly looks as if he is, that he's already joined training. Yes, I would play Wilson as somewhat of a target man with Isak off him, and I would really work on the wide men. Today, and you mentioned Almiron. Yeah, yes. Almiron had 0 crosses and he had 0 shots. Now I stood here and I warned about that fact, that is just about summed up Almiron's season. In fact, it summed up his time at Newcastle.
He smiles a lot.
Yeah, he keeps smiling, which tells me that he's happy with shit.
He's not an Almiron fan. ASM. We miss him, don't we? He is the one player who can change a game and can put the defensive other teams on the back foot.
Yes, he can. And against Manchester City, the England right back was shitting a brick every time St Maximin got the ball, and he was all over the place, and I have never seen him play so bad. Now that says a huge amount for St Maximin, who then goes to Wolves and has an absolute nightmare but scores and got a draw for us. So he's a player of total extremes all the time. But yes, he has got fantastic ability to make chances for himself. I would like to see him come in and start making more chances for others. He's an outside left and he can supply and get a good supply in. Today, the standard of crossing was absolutely diabolical. Every time we got to the dead ball line, we squared it, and the keeper looked. He looked like Levitt Yashin, for heaven's sake. And if you get to the dead ball line, golden rule, pull it back. It must come back, so you cut the keeper out, and you've got to beat the man at the near post. And we didn't do that, and we made the So he made him and the goalkeeper look like superstars. And in all honesty, I was so disappointed, but I was pleased to go into the press conference afterwards and see that Eddie Howe was equally disappointed.
The best thing about Newcastle, we often say it as the fans, what a tribute that was to our late Queen.
Yeah, it really was. And when you think that in the 70th minute there was a total minute's silence in the middle of a game, for heaven's sake, at a critical time, and I really thought how the most respectful of Newcastle fans, and so well done everybody on that. Congratulations. The only trouble was that for 90 minutes the team was silent.
Ladies and gentlemen, he'll be back on the 8th of October for Brentford, 3 weeks' time. Put your hands together for Supermac!